Welcome to the Samurai Saga card game. In this video we're going to be covering combat and combat abilities, and the general goal of the game is to get your opponent's life points down to 0. Each player starts with 30 life points. There is no limit on how many life points you can get during a game, but each player starts with 30 and the first player down to 0 loses the game. There's also a different condition on how you can lose a game. In your draw deck, if you cannot draw any more cards, then you also lose the game. Meaning, if you have to draw cards and you try to draw and there is no more cards to be drawn, you also lose the game, although you have 30 life or any number of life. So those are the two losing conditions. And now let's look at the combat. If we want to engage in combat and we want to attack our opponent, let's say it's my turn. If I want to attack my opponent, I will need to activate my attack action card. It's on rank 3, meaning I can attack with up to 3 minions if I wish so. I have currently 2 minions and I choose to attack with both minions. I declare that I attack with minion number 1 and minion number 2. Now the opponent has a choice on either if he is going to block them with his own minions or allow my minions to attack him directly and take away from his life points. My minions attack power is on the left top corner, so this one has 2 attack, this one has 13 attack, so maybe it's not that bad to let this one pass since it's just a little attack, but maybe he would want to block this minion. So this minion is kind of like a glass cannon. He has 13 attack but only 1 life point. This one has exactly the same stats, so if the opponent wants to trade, he could trade either one of these, and by trading I mean when I have declared my attackers, then the opponent, if he chooses to block, he declares his blockers and how he chooses to block. He can block with 2 minions on 1 minion, that's not a problem. In fact, he can block with any number of minions that we would have on his battlefield to block only 1 minion if he chooses so. Or he could just declare 1 minion to block another minion, like in this case. So if the blockers are declared, this one doesn't block anyone, this one goes through. What would happen now is that these 2 minions would deal combat damage to each other. This one would deal 13 damage to this minion, and this minion would deal 5 damage to this minion. In this case, both minions would die because their life points were reduced to 0 or below 0. If, let's say that I have attacked with this guy and he was also blocked, and let's say that this minion blocked him, in this case only this minion would die because this minion has 14 life points. So, and this minion deals 13 attack, that means that he would survive with 1 life. The 1 life would remain on the card all the way until the end of the round, meaning if in another way my opponent could deal damage to this minion, it would just take him 1 damage to kill it because he had 1 more life left after battle with this minion. Same thing goes in the same round if this minion was damaged by a spell or a curse card or a different card prior to the attack, and then he was weakened from before, and then we went to combat and he was blocked, he might have died. But at the end of every single round, the life points goes back. So let's say that I attacked with both of my minions and my opponent chose to block with his 2 minions. That means that both of these minions would die and only this one would die, and they will go all to their respective discard piles, meaning mine goes here and my opponent's goes in their discard pile. This minion would stay alive. I would end my turn, meaning that the attack action card will go back to rank number 1 since I have finished my turn. My opponent's hand size and defense card goes down 1 rank per minion he has blocked with. He has blocked with 2 minions, that means it goes all the way down to the 1st rank. Note that it cannot go further than the 1st rank. That means that you can always block at least with 1 minion since it can't go past rank number 1. Now let's look at the minions up close. As you can see, next to the requirement cost, which is in the middle of each card, we can see that some cards have extra symbols next to them. They can come with 1 extra symbol or even 2 extra symbols. The rarity of the card dictates if cards will spawn with extra symbols, making them potentially a lot stronger. The symbols themselves on the cards we call combat abilities. The text on the cards is ability of the card, but the symbol on the card is a combat ability. On the right hand side of the card we can expect to see many different images, meaning many different combat abilities, but on the left hand side of the card, if there is a symbol, it's going to always be a 2x symbol on the minions. Now let's talk about what a 2x means on the cards. Let's pretend that I have activated my turn, and on my turn I have plans to play cards from my hand. First, as always, I have to check my requirement, which is 1, and my requirement card is on rank 2. That means I can play cards that are 2 or lower in rank. This one is fine to play. My play action card is on rank number 4, meaning I can play up to 4 cards from my hand if I wish so. So I have chosen to play this card, and since it has a 2x on it, what this allows me is to play this card twice, meaning I can play it once. I can see if my opponent is going to react in any way with a spell or a different card. Now, and only now, if I choose to play another copy of this card, I may do so. You can use any kind of proxy or token card, indicating it like so, meaning that I have 2 copies of this card. So just pretend for the sake of it that this card came into the battlefield twice. Again, since I have played technically now 2 cards, it takes away from my how many cards I can play on my turn right now. So I could have played 4 cards this turn. I have played 2 cards, that means this card twice. That means I have only 2 cards left to play. Now let's pretend that scenario was like this. That the play action card is on rank 1 and I've chosen to play this card. I may play it. I have activated it, right? I may play this card, but I can only play it once because I'm only allowed to play 1 card on my turn right now. Thus, this ability cannot trigger and I cannot play another copy of this card like this. And now, when I have played my card that allowed me to play an extra copy of it, I would end my turn. And when we play the game, if by any means this card is destroyed, so that means the copy of the card, if it's destroyed, it does not go into my discard pile, it's just removed from the game. Same thing goes if the same card is somehow put into my hand, it will also be removed from the game because the copy cards cannot be put either in the discard pile or into my hand. They are just removed from the game. Now let's look at the very first combat ability on this card. This symbol is called Preemptive Strike. What this means is when this minion engages in combat and it's dealing combat damage to an opponent, this minion hits first. If there would be no symbol, the minions would deal damage to each other at the very same time. So as an example, let's say I have engaged in combat, my attack action card is on rank 4, I activate it on my turn, and I'm engaging in combat. I can attack with up to 4 minions. I choose to attack with all of these 3 minions. 2 of my minions have Preemptive Strike, indicated by the icon that you see here. In this case, they're quite weak minions. They don't have a lot of attack power, but they will attack first. So although if my opponent chooses to block with this big minion, which has 13 attack and 1 defense, and I attack with my minion that has 2 attack and 1 defense, my minion is going to kill his minion before his minion can even react, because it has Preemptive Strike. So Preemptive Strike makes it so that my minion attacks first, it deals its damage to this minion first, and then this minion does not have time to respond to hit back, and is just killed. Otherwise, if this minion, let's pretend that this minion now attacked and this minion blocked, they would deal damage at the exact same time. So Preemptive Strike allows you to attack first. As an example, if my opponent had a minion with a Preemptive Strike, what would happen then if I have attacked with mine and he blocked with his? The Preemptive Strikes against each other, they cancel out and they just attack at the very same time. The next combat ability we're looking at is called Double Hit. This is the symbol for it. It allows this card to attack twice basically, meaning that first it will deal its attack damage once as a preemptive strike, and then the second time as a normal strike if the opponent's minion is still alive. As an example here, I have chosen to attack with my attack action card, and I choose to attack with my minion that has double hit. My opponent chooses to block with this minion, which has 7 life. So if my minion attacks, it will attack first with a preemptive strike. It will deal 4 damage to his 7 defense, meaning that this minion will be left with 3 health points. And then it will attack another time, and the second time it's a normal attack, meaning that both of these minions would hit at the same time. This minion will deal an additional 4 damage to his 3 remaining life, and then this minion will deal its 5 damage to my 8 life, meaning that this minion will die and my minion will survive. Please note that if this minion attacks and my opponent does not have any blockers and the damage goes through, this minion does not attack twice. So the double hit compatibility does not affect players, only minions. Now let's say that my opponent has a double hit minion as well. If I attack with mine and he blocks with his, then they would be treated as normal minions. That means that first both minions would attack with a preemptive strike, and then they will attack with a normal strike. So it will happen at the exact same time since they have the same ability, and these abilities would cancel each other out. The next combat ability we're looking at is Leech, and the way Leech works we'll showcase right now. Again, as an example, let's say I have attacked and I choose to attack with this minion. This minion will deal normal combat damage to either player or minion, but what will happen then? After the damage has been resolved, so let's say that my minion has attacked and my opponent has defended. In this case, my opponent is using his double hit minion. He would just kill off my minion so the effect wouldn't trigger. But if he will block with a regular minion without any combat abilities, my minion will still die, but it would give me as a player life points per attack damage it has dealt to the minion or to the opponent, meaning that all the damage that a minion with Leech does, it converts that damage into life points. It's still damage, but you also get the same amount of life points as the damage this card has dealt. The next combat ability we're looking at is called Frightening. What Frightening does is when this minion is chosen to be the attacker, the opponent needs at least 2 other minions to be able to block this minion. So as example, I am in my attack stage and I choose to attack with this minion. This minion, to be blocked, my opponent needs to use 2 minions to block it with. My opponent does not have 2 minions currently, meaning that my minion is free to go through and deal direct damage to my opponent, in this case 4 attack damage. Now if we give this minion to my opponent and let's pretend that we're attacking again, and I'm attacking with this minion, if my opponent wants to, he could block with both of these minions and then he could stop the blocker. My blocker would die, but it would also kill both of these minions because it would have 4 attack power to divide and choose how to give them to my enemy minions. Both of these minions have 1 life point. It means that he would give 1 attack to this minion, 1 attack to that minion, and then 2 attack however he chooses. So maybe 3 attack to this and 1 attack to this. That will be enough to kill both of these minions, and mine will also die, which would be a pretty good trade. So Frightening is a combat ability that says that your opponent has to block this minion with at least 2 or more minions. The next combat ability we're looking at is called Teamwork. How Teamwork works is if I choose to play this minion and I choose to play it as its combat ability, I may put this card on any card that's on the battlefield, either on my side or my opponent's side. Teamwork, what it does, it discards all the text of the card and only focuses on the stats, and it gives its stats to any minion it's applied to. The way you apply it on, you basically put it behind any other minion and you combine its stats. So this minion had 1 attack power and 9 defense, meaning if I choose Teamwork and I put it on this card, I would give this card +1 attack and +1 defense, making this card in total to be a 5/14 minion. It still keeps the original combat ability or normal ability, but it just gets extra stats. If a minion that has teamwork on it is killed, then both of these minions are sent to the discard pile. Same thing goes if this minion is somehow put into your hand. Both of these minions at the same time would go onto your hand because they're currently in the teamwork agreement, and that means that they're treated as one minion. A minion that has a combat ability that's teamwork can be also played as a normal minion, meaning if you choose not to play it on another minion, then it comes into play as a normal minion, just like any other minion. And from now on, this combat ability cannot trigger anymore since it's already in play. If you somehow get it on your hand and then play it again, then you may trigger its combat ability and then attach to another minion if you choose so, or otherwise play it as a regular minion. And now we're going to look at the combat ability called Lethal Hit. If we play a card that has Lethal Hit, it's played as a regular card, but the effect of this card is if it deals any form of its combat damage to enemy minion, it kills the minion regardless if it put its life total to 0 or below. As long as this card has dealt any kind of damage to an enemy minion, it just kills it. Now let's have a card as an example here. This card has 9 life points and I'm choosing to go into my attack stage. I'm attacking with my card that has Lethal Hit. This card normally would deal 7 damage and it has 1 life. And my opponent chooses to block with this card. This card has 1 attack and 9 life. Normally, the opponent's card would survive and my card would die. But since it has Lethal Hit and it dealt damage to this card, both of these cards are going to be killed off. Now, if my opponent has a Preemptive Strike or a double hit card, and the scenario is the same, I'm trying to attack, he blocks with his card will deal damage to my card before my damage could even deal damage to his card. So although his minion survived normal damage, if this card would have attacked him, he would have died. But in this scenario, he has double hit, meaning that this card would hit this first, so the Lethal Hit combat ability wouldn't even trigger, meaning only my minion would die in this scenario. The next combat ability we're looking at is called Momentum. What Momentum does is, when this minion attacks and the opponent chooses a blocker, let's say this blocker, they will deal normal combat damage to each other, meaning my card will deal 5 damage and his card will deal 3 damage. His minion has only 2 defense though, and my minion hits for 5 damage, meaning since it has momentum, it will take that momentum of the attack and push it through the minion and still hit the enemy player, meaning that 2 attack from my minion will be absorbed by this minion and 3 attack will go through. That goes for any number of attack points. So let's say my minion had 100 in attack and was blocked by a minion that has 2 in defense. 98 of that 100 attack power would go through the minion to the player and deal combat damage to the player. This minion will still die and the player will receive damage. Now let's say that the player has blocked with this minion, which has more defense than my creature has power. Now momentum couldn't trigger and nothing would happen because this minion could absorb all the attack power of this card. And now let's look at the spell cards. As you can see, they have also symbols next to them, next to their requirement cost. They come without symbols, with 1 symbol or 2 symbols. In case of the spells, the 2x is always on the left side and the flash symbol is always on the right side if they come with extra symbols on them. We have already covered what the 2x does on the minions, and it does the exact same thing on the spells, meaning that if you choose to play this spell card, you can play it twice in a row. You still have to activate your play action card to do so. Please note that playing any minions or any spells with a 2x on them needs to happen in the right order, meaning you will play this card first and then a copy of itself. You cannot play this card and then play something else and then the copy of this card. So it means if you have to play it after each other, otherwise this ability cannot trigger twice. You can also note that we have the lightning symbol here, which is the flash symbol. What this symbol means is that you can play your spell cards that have the lightning symbol on them at any time, even though it's not your turn, and even though you haven't even activated your play action card. So, meaning, as example, let's say I have activated my draw action card and my curse action card. This will be my first turn, this will be my second turn. I have not activated my play action card at all. Now let's look at our spells again. These two have the lightning symbol, which is the flash. This one does not. Meaning that if I want to play this card, I can only play this card if I have activated my play action card. But these two I can play at any time when it suits me. This spell card says give 7 defense to a minion. So if I engage in combat or if I block, so let's say my opponent has chosen to block and draw cards, and he has chosen these 2 cards to attack with, and maybe I want to block only this minion with this card. Now I have a chance to play my flash spell card from my hand and give this minion plus 7 defense, turning this minion into from a 1/4 to a 1/11. If I choose to play a spell this way with a flash, I have to take my play action card, even though it's not activated, and put it 1 rank down per flash card I play. Let's say my play action card is on rank 1. That will only allow me to play 1 flash spell card, even though I would have multiple in my hand. So if I try to play this one now, I couldn't. If this was on rank 1 and I still played my flash card, I would indicate that I have played it this round by rotating the card. Meaning that no more cards can be played in this way all the way until the end of the round. At the end of the round, you would take this card back and you will resume the game. Same thing goes for this spell. This one has a 2x on it, that means I can play it twice. But as we can see that my requirement card is on 1 to play cards, and I still choose to play this. That means that I can play it once, but not twice. Let's pretend that my play action card is all the way on rank 6, and I have 2 spells in my hand with the flash symbol on them. This one can trigger twice, this one can trigger once, so I'm playing this one twice and this one once. My opponent does not react, because my opponent could also have flash cards on his hand and he can react to my flash cards. So I have played currently 3 flash cards, so that means this one twice and this one once, and my play action card will go 1, 2, 3 ranks down, so 1 rank per spell card played this way, making potentially my other cards that I've been intending to play the same round a bit stronger because they went up in rank. And now we have curses. Curses of course don't have a requirement nor extra symbols, and they can be only played when you activate your play action card, or if another card dictates that you can play these from your hand. The big difference between curses and spells is that curses only last the round they're played, meaning that if I choose to play this curse and this curse says draw 1 card for each rank of enemy curse, if you look at the enemy curse, it's on rank 5, meaning that I would draw 5 cards because I have played this card right now, and then it's discarded into my discard pile. And then if we look at spells, their abilities, if not stated otherwise, remain in play. If this card gives 7 defense to a minion, that defense will remain on that minion until that minion is removed in some way from the game. Besides the combat abilities on the cards, some cards come with abilities that are very similar to combat abilities, which is Purge, Resurrection, and Immortal. So we're gonna cover them really quickly what they do. Purge basically means that you have to take cards from top of the draw deck and discard depending on how many cards the Purge card dictates. Resurrection, if the minion with Resurrection would die, it will go to your discard pile and return only once, meaning it resurrects the minion once and then it loses the resurrection ability. Immortal, on the other hand, says that no amount of damage can kill that minion, but it could be removed from the battlefield with cards that could just take it from the battlefield and put it into your discard pile, or just take it from your battlefield and put it onto your hand. So there are ways to remove immortal minions, and we also have relic cards in the game. The symbol for the relic cards is this one, and when you play this card, it's just put on the battlefield next to your minions, and it can trigger when the requirement is met on the card. Now let's talk about deck building. Our game is designed so that you will need only 3 of any kind of booster pack from any expansion that will come in the series of expansions to play this game. So it's very beginner friendly, meaning that you don't have to do a lot of deck building to come into a game and to have a pretty good deck that could stand its grounds against any other player. So meaning you would take any 3 random booster packs, you would open them up, you will shuffle them together, that will be your deck, and you're ready to play. The only thing you need is the action cards when you have acquired them, either by getting booster packs or just getting them on the side. You are ready to play the game. So the entry to play our game is very, very simple. But that's the basic of how the deck building works. Obviously, we have a more complicated way of deck building, which is when you open a booster pack, and each booster pack contains 15 cards, you would have to keep at least 10 of the cards from one booster pack, and the rest could be discarded. Meaning that your deck could be total of 30 cards and no less. That's the minimum. Otherwise, you can have no upper deck size, meaning that you can have a deck that's 500 cards large if you wish so. So the deck building is that you would put 3 booster packs together. Advanced deck building would be that you would still take 3 booster packs together, but you could remove 5 cards from it, keeping the 10 cards from each booster pack, having a deck of 30 cards. You may take another booster pack, which maybe has better synergies with the cards you already have from the other 2 booster packs, and shuffle them together, and that will be your new deck. Meaning, you do not take individual cards out to make a deck, you take booster packs out and put new booster packs in, at least 10 cards from each booster pack.